Welcome to the Recipe Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Red, and this episode I'm going to be doing something a little bit different because this episode is going to be completely dedicated to the future of the 2D Metroid series. On this episode, I'm going to be discussing 6 things that I would like to see in Metroid 6, the sequel to Metroid Dread. And just to make this content more compelling, I'm really going to be doing this from the perspective of me as a director of the next mainline entry in the Metroid series, Metroid 6. Look, back in 2013, I made a video just like this, talking about the future of 3D Mario. And it was all about the design aspects that I would change in order to make Starfinder Mario more fun. Every single design decision that I made was actually applied in Mario Odyssey in 2017. 2013 video, 2017 game. When we talk about Doom and the Glory Kills, I was talking about that years before it was ever even put into a video game. Same thing with Omni movement you find now in Call of Duty. If you check my old Splatoon content out, you'll hear me talking about, I love the fact that the running speed in the game, which was you jumping into the ink, was 3-dimensional. As in, every direction I can run the same speed. It's something that first-person shooters lack unless they were an arena shooter. I talked about these things years before they become normalized in all of video games. So I just felt like, why not do that again with 2D Metroid? I've been talking a lot about Metroid Prime, and like I said in the last one, there's really nothing left to speak on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond until Nintendo decides to speak on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. So until then, here we are. Oh, but before we even move on from me tooting my own horn, I should also mention, for years, going back to 2011, 12, I was always constantly mentioning how I wanted a dedicated Federation game where it was a multiplayer game and you ran around and went on adventures and Federation Force would happen. It would happen on the platform that I wasn't asking for it on with a whole art style that I definitely wasn't putting on the idea I had on my head, but still that would come to pass. Look, I'm just trying to say that there's a lot of things that I've said on this platform that has become 100% reality. And look, I know if I sat here, there's a lot more things that I can point to and be like, yeah, look, that. But we will probably be here for way too long. So, that all out the way. Let's actually get into it. Look, this is going to be long-winded. I'm going to tell you when I move from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yes, the 6 ideas that I have here to present to you today. But like I said, these are going to be long-winded, right? I'm going to say, all right, this is number 1. And then I'm going to go into deep thoughts of why I'm making these decisions. Now, before we start, I'm only going to put one rule. One rule, because I know what you're going to be thinking, well, if you're directing the game, you know Nintendo's still going to be the overlord. You're right. So I'm going to put one rule from them only. And the one rule is the one rule that's been there for every Metroid game, the one rule that I would instantly break, which is starting from zero. You know, you do that in every single Metroid game. They always make you lose everything, and then you got to build it all back up. I've said this 1,000 times before, so I'm not going to make that one of my, things today. I've said it in almost every Metroid video. Like, if it was me, I would start Samus with everything she had in the previous game and then build on top of that. Because that just sounds like the cooler, newer thing to do. The thing that the series never done is like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Right? So, I can't do that. Nintendo said, you can't do that. You got to start from zero. Metroid ain't big like that. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand that people playing this will be playing it for the first time more than likely. And you got to explain to them the rules. Because when you think everybody just knows, that's when you can end up making a game that reviews horribly. And it's like, yo, it's a really good game there. But it's like, oh yeah, I didn't get to that because I didn't know what to do. That's why we have tutorials. I understand that. So understand that because of that, this is my number 1. I'm going to start from zero, right? But my zero is going to be Zero Suit. Which brings me to number 1 on my list. Zero Suit Samus and Samus Aran's gunship. These are 2 constants in the Metroid series. Every single one of her adventures includes those things. Zero Suit Samus, you'll say, but that's her. Yeah, but she's become kind of her own thing. Zero Suit Samus and Samus' suit, yes, they're one. But they can be different. And that's why she's a whole different character in Smash Brothers. That's why the moment that we did get to play with Samus in her Zero suit in Zero Mission is still one of the most memorable moments in the whole series. So I know what you're thinking. So that's why you don't do it to death. You leave it there. It's like, bro, that was like 20 something years ago. I think it's time we got to run around with her again. Other M, I know I was gonna get there. It was just done in a game where it was and the way it was done, it was so like it's so deep into the game. It's not something like what I'm actually gonna propose here. So I feel like yeah, she hasn't been overdone twice. That's it. The gunship, I would say once, and that was in Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, and it was used beautifully there. And if they even took that to new heights, it would be something great. So yeah, that's what I'm here to do with my number one. It's taking these two things that are constant in Samus and applying it to the actual game. So here's how I would start this game. Samus has gone on all these adventures over the years. We've seen her start with basically the Ethan Hunt style. Would you accept this mission? You know what I mean? We've seen her do that time and time and time and time again. There's some notification that she gets and she goes and checks it out. You know what I mean? So I don't want to do that. Actually, Samus has ran around a lot. And speaking of running, this is one time where there was these little creatures that taught her how to run and jump super high, right? And the way it was done so seamless in the game without it being like something that was super, in your face, arrows pointing, follow these guys. No, it was just like a narrative visual thing that if you was like, oh, they doing something, let me do that. You know what I mean? It was incredible. Something that you'll never forget if you lived through it at the time and experienced it, it's something that you'll always remember, just like Zero Suit Samus. But I bring these characters up to say she saved those characters. And those aren't the only ones. She saved plenty of characters. So I want to bring up my number two because it plays into my number one. So my number one being Samus and her Zero Suit, the gunship. Number two is outdoors. And you're going to be like, wait, your whole number two is outdoors? That's it? Yeah. Look, I love the Metroid series. And one of the best things about the Metroid series is how isolated you feel, right? You're always in this claustrophobic-like situation where you're trying to find abilities in order to open doors to get you out, or either to get you deeper in order to complete whatever, the mission is, the objective is. There's something bad here. I got to take that out before I leave this place. You know what I mean? So sometimes Samus is just like, you as a player might feel claustrophobic, but what she's doing, there's no claustrophobia involved. She's just pushing through. You know what I mean? But I say all that to say, the moments that you do get out, oh my God, as a player, you get that, that moment where you feel like you could just take that breath, like, yo, thank God we outside. There's some rain going. It's nice out here. It's probably like no enemies up here a lot of the time, just some secrets and stuff like that. It felt so good in Super Metroid or any other games where you finally get to go outdoors. And I know for the Prime players, they're like, yo, in Prime, Talon, you was outdoors a lot, and then you went into the caves, right? And when you would come outdoors after being underground in the ice area, going underwater, deep, when you came outside, you even still got the same thing that you would get in the 2D games when you came out. It was like, oh, I'm out here. My ship is here. I could save. You know what I'm saying? I know where I'm at. It's chilled over here. Everything is easy over here. I'm leveled up because where I just came from. I got all these abilities, all these upgrades. So up here now, it's kind of my safe area. You know what I mean? I think about that with Metroid all the time. So I want a lot more outdoors areas. Like you can have a forest. You can have a mountain. You can have a lot of things like that. And you can build, basically a whole bunch of scientific bases that intertwine through them like you saw in Super Metroid. Or listen, I can name any Metroid game. That's something that you always see, right? But you can do a lot more of it outdoorsy, you know what I mean? We've seen floating cities and stuff like that, obviously, in Prime. I like that stuff. So when I say outdoor, it's because it's going to play into a whole lot of other things that I got on this list. But I needed to mention the outdoors part because actually I want Samus to start indoors. And I mentioned the animals because I want Samus to start on a planet that she calls home. The planet where she goes to in order to relax, to, take off the suit and be chilled. I want her to have her own room within the base, deep within the planet. Because this is a planet where she brings stuff back to. And there's scientists there. They help her, with her suit and cleanup and da. She trains there, all of that stuff. This is her home base. And that's where I want the game to take place. on Samus's, and I use giant air quotes, on her Earth. But understand that her Earth is very, 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 very dangerous. That's why she stays here. Because if anything ever goes bad, it's just good for me to be here. Because weird stuff that I found all over the universe that I didn't just blast. Because you know Samus does that in every game. You do that in every game. But you see her save some stuff. Yeah, like 2 animals. You got to consider, if she saved 2 animals from this planet, 2 animals from that planet, and then you saw the whole planet get destroyed in Super, in Fusion. You know what I mean? Like, well, Fusion was a base, but still, you see the whole thing get destroyed. Like, all right, so you got to consider these animals are from this planet. They're not from another planet. So now you're gonna see a bunch of the creatures from Super Metroid, you know, above, on the surface, outdoors. That gives you a visual narrative of, oh, Samus saves these creatures and brings them here, and they repopulate. Look, there's thousands of them now, and and things like that. So yeah, there's dangerous stuff in here too, deep within here too. And since this is what you would consider a super dangerous planet, nobody wants to live here, but this is where Samus calls home. She's happy here. You know what I mean? Like, it's no different from Superman in the Fortress of Solitude having a whole bunch of alien species that he just takes and protects, you know what I mean? And the animation and the comics, he always does something like that. It's basically that idea. And you got to consider there's going to be scientists here, maybe some that are tied in with the Federation or whatever the case may be. And I know the whole hub being on the run from the Federation, I know. But we just going years later, right? Let's say shit got cool, things died down. And so she's, you know, on this planet. Deep inside, they're using the core of the planet in order to, you know, power up things like Samus's suit and other things that they're keeping locked down using that energy, and then they're working on new stuff with that energy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot here. There's a lot going on here, right? So the way the game would start is like almost like a Zelda game. Samus asleep, 2D. This is not, oh, we doing cinematics or zooming in. Yeah, there'll be that, of course. Dread did it too. But I'm talking 2D. You in your bed, you wake up because alarm's going off. You know, distress signal. I'll just go deeper into what happened. Like, what happened? I don't know. Somebody here was basically corrupt, started dealing with the space pirates. So the space pirates found this planet. This planet had been hidden. It's super protected, but now they know. And they're here. And they're crashing into the planet and everything. You know, the opening of Metroid Prime 3, the opening of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. That's happening on the surface. But you inside, in your Zero suit. Not even your Zero suit. You literally Zero suit. Like, you're just Samus Aran. You don't have the suit that brings on the actual, you know, Varia suit and all that. No. You're just Samus chilling. Pajama Samus. You get what I'm saying? So you get up, you grab your blaster, you about to, you know, make your way to the base, but you got to understand these guys are breaking in. So now you're dealing with them and they going in, because they want stuff that's here that you took from previous games. Maybe y'all got a remaining X. Maybe you got the last Metroid. Whatever the case may be. Well, Samus is the last Metroid. Maybe they want her. You get what I'm saying? So they're here. You don't know specifically for what, other than they know about this area. There's mad dangerous stuff here that they can use in order to basically rule the whole entire galaxy and universe and all of that stuff. So you're going to work your way to your suit, which is actually going to be in your shit, which is actually not being worked on somewhere within the planet, so you got to work your way down to it. No, it's actually at the surface. You're like, just like Dread. Yeah, but this is the opening of the game. You're going to learn how to move around, play, you know, pick up weapons, pick up weapons, use those like a space pirate. You just took him up. Yeah, now you picked up his shotgun style weapon and you running through the whole way. You going through, you getting through, you seeing scientists get blasted. All everything's happening. Everything's going on. This is 2D. And it's like danger. You trying to get up there, right? And you seeing things crash through, make giant craters that, you know, later when you look at it, oh, this is a area with platforms that I'm going to have to come down from here. I'm going to be able to come back up from here. It's like those long, you know, long corridors that would separate all the rooms in Super Metroid. Like, they're making those craters into the planet that would be, you know, gameplay stuff later. So you work your way up to your ship. You got your suit now. Now you ready to go. You tell your ship to fly off and do its thing, which is, you know, defend the area. You could assume that it can do that on its own, right? We've seen Sam's ship fly around and do stuff like that. But now you're starting at the top. You're outside. You got to work your way in because you want to save people. You want to contaminate things. You're going to have to absolutely body things because there's things under there that right now are free and creating full areas. You know what I mean? They're just digging through walls and nesting and all this other stuff is happening. Different breeds of things going to different locations, just like any other Metroid game. Now you got your different themed location. What went that way, one went this way. You know, two things were here. Clearly, one thing ate that thing, and here we got maybe something took over something else, and now these two things are combined, making this one really crazy creature. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, one could have been good, the other one was evil. It consumed it, and now here you are. You got to fight these things. So a lot is going on this planet now, and you got to work your way down. And as you're working your way down, yeah, you're gonna be seeing Metroid, basically, all of that good stuff. You're going to be playing through all of that good stuff. But I wanted you to have the Zero Suit moment to teach you how to, run, jump, all of that stuff. And now when you're working your way, into the world, starting at the top with your suit, is almost like a second tutorial now showing you, okay, you could turn into a morph ball. You have this, you have that. You know what I mean? Because I do still want you to start at least with like, turning into a morph ball. It's not like, oh, you got to find the morph ball. No, you got your morph ball. I would even say things like the spider ball and all that. Like, yeah, you already have those little abilities. Like, you got your spider ball, your morph ball, and obviously your arm cannon, super missiles. Basic stuff like that. Because you just worked your way up here. So now you can teach players that, oh, red doors, you use missiles, blue or green, whatever color they choose to go with, is your regular cannon, right? But this is a place also, like I said, there's going to be things that are going to be creating its own little worlds, its own little nests, its own little areas down there. And to access those areas, it'd be cool if the only weapons that you can use with, like, yeah, Samus will get arm cannon upgrades. But if there was things that, oh yeah, you got to pick up and use, maybe it's a one-shot thing, and it's like, yeah, that one shot destroys that door you could go through. So the ability of Samus being able to pick up weapons, it's the same thing there, where it's like, yeah, Samus is using her left arm. You know what I mean? She has her right arm. I want her to use her left arm. I want her to be able to, grab enemies and everything with that same button. You know what I mean? And do like cool glory kill style things in 2D Metroid, right? So that just adds to the gameplay. And yeah, so Samus, now you have her all built well and good. Let's get to my number 3, right? Because my number 3, I need to state in order to tell you what the hell what number 1 is doing, because I didn't really, I told you Zero Suit Samus, but I didn't really mention the ship yet. So number 3 is that the game would be 2.5D. The game would have a 3D map, like Metroid Prime, instead of a 2D map, like Super Metroid or Metroid Dread, or Fusion, or any of the 2D Metroid games. It'll be 2.5D, but 100% played all the time in 2D. But dynamically, when you go into the background, in the same way when Samus, you see her go upstairs to get into an elevator in Dread. Imagine you doing that, but you're going into the background. The camera will dynamically pan and put you, when you go that way, into a 2D perspective. But you have a 3D map. So you see where you are as a dot there. So now it just makes the game have a lot more depth. While it's all still 2D, it makes secrets different. It makes rooms different, because if you could see another room in the background and say, oh yeah, so let's say it's a box, right? Just think of it as a box, and you're on the edges of this box, and the box is clear. You can see through each side, right? And see what's going on the other side. And when you walk on that box, you're in the 2D perspective, right? So let's say you're at the bottom of the box, and now you're going to make your way up the left side. So now you're on the left side. If there's a window there, you can see the right side of the box. When you go continue up, now you're at the top of the box. You can see down to the bottom of the box, right? Where you started. So you'll be able to see these other rooms and see other things going on. Maybe even see a goddamn boss there sleeping with its babies or something like that. It's just weird stuff like that, but you get to do that. And I want it to be done in a very, very classy way. And by that, I mean, Zelda and Metroid have this thing that a lot of gamers, I would say, who play it today probably don't even think about. But back in the day, there wasn't no hard mode to a lot of these games. So what we would have to do was figure out how to make the game more challenging. It would be on our 3rd, 4th, 5th playthrough. And what you would do would be like, okay, I'm going to play this Zelda game. I'm going to play this Metroid game, and I'm going to avoid collecting heart pieces. I'm going to avoid collecting the heart they drop at the end of the battle. I'm going to avoid collecting the, expansion, the energy tank, the energy tank, the energy tank. I'm gonna just see them and be like, no. So I have low health, and now the game is a way harder experience. This is before we got hyper modes and master modes and all of this stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we did. It was like, play the game with 3 hearts, play the game with only 3 energy tanks or 1 energy tank, and that was the thing. So for the gamers who want to keep the game and the exploration a lot harder, look, you're always gonna have a 2D map because Samus is from here. Now your ship, you're gonna actually find data that then you'll send to your ship and it'll create the 3D map. Some of this data, an alien might have ate it. So you got to fight this boss. You beat the boss and it drops it like a heart container. Some you'll be able to find like a regular heart piece, or you get what I'm saying, like an energy tank. You know what I mean? Like you'll just be able to find in the world. Like, but some will be tied to, but they're always going to be skippable. That's the point I'm just trying to make. You can just skip it. So it's like, yeah, none of these areas I got the 3D map for. The 3D map, when you get it and you send it up to the ship and it gives you that 3D map, secrets are going to be hinted at on that map. Not completely revealed, but hinted at. So it does make the game easier, exploration easier, and I think that's good for the casual audience. While the game is actually going to be deeper because it's a 3D map. This is not a regular flat Metroid game. Like, it has depth in its 2D-ness. It's basically what I would do. That'll be the thing that I'll do that'll be completely different from all the other entries. To have that 3D map in the 2D game would be really weird, but I think would be really, really, really cool. And to give players the option to go through it with, the map that makes things easier, or go through it with the classic 2D style, I think that's cool too. Some areas you might be like, you know what, I give up. You're in the last area. I'm gonna use the damn, I'm gonna use the goddamn, blueprint. Send it up to the ship for this area, and then you get a full scan of, oh yeah, this is what's down there now. And that scan it'll be like in real time. Like, it'll be like a beacon that flies through the area, almost like the ones that they had in Prometheus and things like that. Because you gotta again consider, aliens done ripped through walls and created whole new paths. You're getting a full 3D scan of the new area of this place. You know what I mean? That'll be cool. It'll be nice. Look, hear me out, y'all. Hear me out. It'll be nice if, right, when you do get voice acting in the game. Oh no, hear me out. When you do get voice acting in the game, it's done very subtly. This is how I would do it. You'll find a base and you'll see a bunch of held up scientists there, and you walk in and you're just in 2D. Look, you walking into that room, boom, boom, boom. You sit down like RoboCop in the chair, and they just have a conversation. Oh, Samus, like, yeah, this is crazy. They done made it into this room. They're trying to, and they give you some story, voiced story. Yeah, they're gonna give you, yeah, they trying to do this, You get some of the plot, but guess what? You just played. It's a 2D game. I'm not gonna say 10 hours, but we got a 3D map now, so it might be a little bit bigger than the average 2D Metroid game, right? So let's say it's a 10-hour game. This is at hour 5, you're getting this conversation. You're sitting down, and they're going to now do these upgrades to you and . So yeah, this is an upgrade you found. This is one thing. It's all they could do in this room. That's all they can do for you. We don't have a lot to offer you, but we can do these modifications in order to help you get to whatever section B of, whatever space over there. You know what I mean? Like that space over there. So you get that. But what I personally would want it to be, because when I think Metroid, I think space. And when I think space in 2D games, I always go back to the goat of it all. And that's 3D Mario. Mario, Galaxy, Galaxy 2, and even Odyssey with its 2D sections. 8-bit, they had you going upside down on the top of the wall, and then gravity will change, and it'll, they would usually do like the tick, tick, tick thing, and then switch, tick, 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 switch. Or it would just be like, just switching in Galaxy case, at a specific pace too, just without really notifying you like that. But it was cool. You would get sucked up to the top. Things that were on the bottom, like boxes that weren't glued down to the ground, they will go up, and those were platforms upside down. I would like that for Samus, right? And you got to, again, consider this is a place where they're keeping some aliens that, yeah, they need to be in low gravity. So there's some areas like that. So what if the upgrade that they gave you was a way for you to switch on and switch off the gravity? Not that it's going to be happening randomly. You can do this in rooms. Turn off and turn on gravity, right? And then use that in order to complete puzzles. It's like, damn, I need to reach up there, but this is all broken. How I get up there? You was there before, but you couldn't control the gravity. Now you could. So now you're walking on top, and now you can make it that way. You know what I'm saying? Something is in the way right here. Gravity, all that debris now goes to the top. Boom, now you can make it through. It's things like that. Like, And then enemies, fighting enemies, like, oh, there's a giant enemy here. Yeah, you could sit there, blast it away, or you could just switch the gravity and the block that's up there right above it, which is blah, smash it, green everywhere. You know what I mean? Blue guts everywhere. Again, it's rated T for teen, chill, y'all. Can't be blood everywhere. That's red. So, yeah, and then you just make it through that area. Like, things like that, yeah, that'll be an ability. So, gravity, that's my number 4. So, I've already told you number 1, which is Zero Suit as an introduction, just to be able to play with her again. So my number 1 was Zero Suit Samus and Samus's gunship, right? And I keep bringing it up because I want to bring it up to say, yeah, it's going to do more than that. Everything that I did in Prime, I wanted to also do here. I want you to be able to, like, open up new areas. Like, oh, yeah, blow up that area or do that. Things like that. Oh, pull this thing up for me and, take it out of this way when you're up in the surface, because there's going to be a lot of sections in this game where you're going to be up in the surface. You're going to be doing that whole coming down deep into the world and it being crazy claustrophobic and then coming up, and there's going to be stuff up there because remember the pirates came, so they taking camp up there. It's not when you go out into the surface in this game, it's not going to be the calm, cool, and collected. It's going to be real things going on up there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, you're going to complete stuff at the bottom, and then you're going to get up to the top by the end of the game with the whole, escape mechanism. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. But when you do that, yeah, the bottom will probably explode or stuff like that. And then the top is going to be fine, but there's going to be pirates up there. So more continues, your big boss, the final, it'll be something up there, whatever the case may be. Maybe they had blueprints to make a brand new Meta Ridley. So the whole time you was going through the adventure down here, you know what I'm saying? That's what they were doing up there. So when you get up there, bam, Meta Ridley's back. First time really back in years. Like, that'll be awesome too. Look, there's a lot that they could do, right? There's a lot of directions you could go, but these are just some of the swings that I'm telling you that I'm trying to take if it was me doing this. So Zero Suit at the opening, her ship, helping you with puzzles and playing an actual part in the visual narrative, because it's mostly gonna be visual. It's not gonna be like there's story all over the place, but there will be voice acting here and there. Maybe some aliens you'll even find that'll talk to you, and they'll be like, yo, like, this shit is crazy. Like, we was just scientists working here, because there's not gonna only be humans on this planet. Like, that room where Samus goes and sit in, you'll see, like, to just, paint you a picture with things that exist to give you an idea. Like, there would be a goddamn a predator, a Navi, and a xenomorph. And I'm just saying for different races of alien. I know these things, some of these things like, yo, those are killers. No, I'm just saying, like, just think of these things not as killers, just different races of alien. There'll be that. It's like a Star Wars scene. You know what I'm saying? Like the goddamn the bar, the damn canteen, whatever, in Star Wars, like that. Just but scientists just working on you, different scientists. It's something that you would see in the Green Lantern stories and things like that. There's just a bunch of different alien races as part of the Green Lantern Corps. So yeah, there's just people there, and from different walks of life, literally walks, different planets of life, So they are so you can run into other alien races, and there can be conversations that are alien gibberish in gameplay. You know what I mean? So you just see in text, just like what Dread did, And then Samus could talk to them like she knows that language, and then have some lines to English speaking scientists. Right? 2 or 3 lines. I'm not saying nothing crazy. I'm not saying Samus is sitting around having tea with these dudes. You know what I mean? I'm just saying there's stops to be made, and some scientists live because, yeah, they badasses too. Not everybody's just going to get wiped out by the pirates. They're going to like, yo, we got this area good, Samus. You want to recharge at this charge station right there. Go do that. And she's like, thanks, stay safe. Like bars like that. That's it. As you walk through. And she says it once. So if you didn't hear it, you missed it. And it was in gameplay. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, in Doom when you walk in and all the guys are seeing you, the Slayer, and yes, like that. So it's like, oh, Samus, there, you're alive. Great. There's, there's a recharge station over there. It could be a save station, whatever the case may be. And you go, thanks, soldier. Like, stay safe, whatever. And that's it. Like, subtle stuff like that. Yeah, I'll throw that in there. Why? Because it'll just give the already cinematic nature of what they did with Metroid Dread that much more, to me, gravitas. You know what I mean? So I would like something like that. And I honestly think a lot of Metroid fans would like that. Because it'll be subtle enough where they'd be like, oh, shit, that came out of nowhere. I like those little subtle times that she talked. It could be 2-3 times within a 10-hour experience. And twice can be in an actual alien language, and then once can be in English. You know what I mean? Something like that. Just something nice. I'm just trying to ease y'all into, Samus could say stuff. She's a person. She has her own thoughts and stuff. This whole idea of being the mute, like Link to me, I'm so over that. Like I'm over that. I want Link to talk. We got Link in the movie now. I want him talking in the game. Mario, I would like Mario to have a few lines other than "It's a me, Mario." You know what I'm saying? I would not mind at all, at all. I'm not saying I wanted to be just yapping all day every day. No, I don't need Mario running around whoa, whoa, like Drake and be like whoa, hey, like nah, I don't need that. But a few lines ain't gonna hurt nobody. You know why not? Um, so yeah, I'm just going down everything that I've said I wanted. So 2.5D, basically in design with the 3D mat, right? That was my number two. No, that was my number three, and because I said more outdoor areas, because I do that's a big thing. Like I like the outdoors, like even places that are deep within the world where you got like cracks where you could see the sky and there's rain falling in. You got a lot of that in Metroid Prime 1 especially, right? Like, yeah, I like stuff like that. So when I say outdoor stuff, like, I mean that. Like, while, yeah, I know it's supposed to all be claustrophobic, that's cool. You're going to still have that. It's a mix, And that's one of my favorite things is that being able to breathe when you goddamn see when you see the sky, it's like Matrix, when they went over the clouds and was like, whoa, they got to take that nice, drink in of the sun for those 2 seconds and then went right back to the shit. That's basically what I'm saying to do constantly in this game. So that's why I gave it its own category. And look, when you talk about outdoors, I'm talking your shit. You need outdoor areas for your ship to play a major part in the game. You know what I mean? Like I want that. I want areas where you come and you go, okay, this is an area you could call your ship to land, save station, and it lands there and it saves. And when you go somewhere else, you can call it over there. You know what I'm saying? So, and I don't want it to just be there. Like, oh, when you're here, your ship is just there. Like, it knew you was here, so it just flew and it came here. Like, it's always hovering above you. Like, I do want that to be an aspect of it. But I still want you to go places and have to call it there to land it. Maybe after you call it once, yeah, it's just always there now. Whenever you revisit that area, just to give it again, it makes the world feel more lived in, more. It just adds this layer on the game that makes it feel almost like a full 3D game, but it's a 2D game. But using that ship in order to maybe call in a damn airstrike on a certain thing in order to make a path for you. You did that in Prime 3. Yeah, it's like, yeah, so if she was doing this in the past, she should still be doing this in the latest entry. And 6 is the latest entry in the story and everything. And speaking of story, while I mentioned, the end of the game earlier, I might as well put this here. I mentioned Ridley being there. How amazing would it be if one of the lines, there's a line at the end. Yes, if one of the lines from Samus was basically something along the line when she sees him and he appears and it's raining, it's night, lightning strike. There's like space pirates around on the mountains. You're on the surface. Your ship is in the background, and it's like, yo, that's crazy. It's Meta really right there, mad big, right? Samus just yells out like you're not him. You know what I mean? Because she done killed Ridley so many times. The player is actually thinking that. So she's saying exactly what we think. You're not him. That's her one line. And he says, well, to him, that's her one line to him in this scene. And he says, if I'm not him, why do I remember killing your parents and destroying your whole planet? And then the fight begins. I'm just saying, look, that's some real on the nose, super fanboy moment, but god damn it, I want it. If you're gonna bring Ridley back, that's the way you bring him back. To let you know it's like, yo, the space pirates always have like a memory bank of this dude. You know what I mean? So it's like you got to take that out in order to really get rid of him because they can always bring him back. Something along those lines. That'll be so sick though to have that moment actually play out like that because then it's like, yeah, you are fighting him. That's still it, even if it's not exactly. It is the embodiment of what that thing was. It's the same Ganon thing again, but it's more science based here. You know what I mean? So I would like something like that. I think that would be really epic. And then the battle happens there, And as for the space pirates on the mountain, don't worry, they all gonna get blown away with the blast that you're gonna, the final blast Sam is gonna hit really with. But yeah, I'm just saying the outdoor areas are gonna play an important part, and that's why I made it its whole own thing. So again. Number 1, Zero Suit and the ship. Number 2, outdoor areas. Number 3, 2.5D and that, Prime style map. Oh, let's talk about that Prime style map. Which that just would be super cool to me to just have it where it's an optional thing for players to take. So it's like, yeah, I made the game easier. I made the game, harder by not taking it. That's just it's an old school thing, but still cool. But just as a actual gameplay mechanism, having the 3D map in the 2D game would be crazy. Like, it would be really cool. These maps are getting so detailed and intricate anyway in the Metroidvania genre. So just taking it to the next level is like, why not you, Samus? You're the one who birthed most of these things. Why not you go and now evolve the whole thing and build on it in a whole new way? Listen, man, if you're an indie developer out there, the idea is right here. Take it. If you never thought of it, just take it. Do it. It could be a big moment for you. You know what I mean? So where were we? 1, zero suit in a ship. 2, open outdoor areas. 3, 2.5D and that 3D prime style map. 4 was gravity sections and being able to dynamically, shift and switch gravity around would be really damn cool. And look, I'll elaborate on that some more. Gravity's been used a lot in video games this year alone. Split Fiction did some really cool stuff in Gravity. And we've seen games go, when playing with Gravity, into different genres like top-down shooters and things like that. Remember I mentioned Samus picking up weapons? And I was like, yeah, one-off weapons. Imagine the weapon that she picks up. And the camera pans and it goes above. Again, Zelda style, right? And now you're just in almost like a shoot 'em up, where Sam is going through this area where a bunch of hordes of aliens is coming in. And it's just one thing to break up some gameplay styles and give you a little bit of different variety. It's what Zelda does with their little rooms that you can go into and play mini games. Yeah, they're decorated as a shop in a game, but that's what it is. It's no different from you going into a specific thing in Mario, and it's like, yeah, you're just doing this one-off little thing in this room, whether it's collecting coins, whether it's collecting coins that are going to disappear in a set time period, whether it's a platforming thing, So it's something along those lines where you can play with gravity and you can go up and down. You're thinking 2D, but you can also go top down in the background. You know what I mean? Now you're walking on the side of the wall, really. What's really the side of the wall, you know what I mean? And that'll have a whole different set of different rules. You with the morph ball playing with gravity and falling from the background into the foreground and things like that, being able to manipulate. Hell, I'm a keep hitting the Zelda beats. We say a lot of negative things about the Divine Beast, and while sure you can say, yo, they're not like this dungeon, they're not like that, cool, yeah, but the Divine Beasts are still legitimately great. They just weren't dungeons, so they get a bad rep. They were cool. If there were more Divine Beasts, actually, the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom series would be probably a lot more well received, because the sections where you're moving pieces of the Divine Beast on the map, I would do something like that. In these moments of, I'm playing with gravity, or in this section you can actually manipulate the map. You know what I mean? So now you're playing with that 3D map. So let me move this down, that up, and the room actually shifts with you in it. Like, you know how cool that is? When I see games do that, I'm like, there's been so many ideas that you can apply now to this IP. So when I say, playing with gravity, it might not seem like such a big deal when you apply it in the way that I'm actually thinking about it, the way I just described. Oh yeah, it changes a lot. It makes a game a lot different, potentially even better. I haven't played a game that played with gravity and thought, this is whack. This isn't absolutely mind-blowing, the greatest thing I've ever experienced. Usually that's the sentiment. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, this is insanely amazing. Like, and I don't think there's no better IP than Samus Aran herself, with her abilities and everything. Yeah, there's so much that she could do. Could you imagine having like the horde of enemies, coming at you, and it's in the shoot 'em up mode, and you're just spraying everything coming at the screen, all these little just creatures coming at you, and then it's like, she runs out, she throws the thing, and then you got to just screw attack through the last few and break through like the wall, and it just throws you right back in the 2D perspective. Like the camera just pans, and now you good. Like, and it just ended off that section. Like, that'll be incredible. Like, Samus has so much stuff that call for that. Like, you can take that same idea and then do a section where it's like, you're just running now through gravity. So now you got a speed boost, right? And when you switch into gravity, now you're at the top. Now you go into shoot 'em up mode. So now, again, that's just top-down platformer. You know what I mean? Like, you just run around like, and you got to make it through this thing in a set speed. Look, if you play these Metroidvania games, say Prince of Persia Lost Crown, those little rooms where you got to do it all in one take, you can't get hit, or Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Blind Forest, those sections where you was getting chased by something you got to run through. I'm just speaking on those sections. Those are just the danger rooms at the end of the Metroid games, where it's like, yo, you got to get out of here. Everything is blown out. So it's like that. But then you're playing with the perspective of the game. That's crazy. That's like super cool. You know, like super fun. I love the whole idea of that. So yeah, Gravity, it definitely deserved this number 4 slot on my list. Now we're down to the last two. Number 5, new upgrades beyond Samus's classic arsenal to enhance traversal. That means enhancing exploration. Same thing with combat. I wanted to enhance that and change up the speed of things and stuff like that, which makes the game feel different. So yeah, enhancing what was already there to me is very crucial. That's an important aspect to me. Like, she has a screw attack, and I want her to have the screw attack. You know, she's able to put on her speed boots and run through walls. I love that. I love, getting your charge shot, your spider ball, and all that. But yeah, I want to see upgrades to the morph ball. Like, I want the morph ball to do more. It was super cool. And Prime 3, this is why you see I always give Prime 3 so much props. Because I know that they sat there and they tried to build on things that were already there. So it's like the electricity, when you went to Hypermore, electrocuting all the robots and everything, and Skytown Elysium, that was super cool. And then being able to crash through things, with your charge and that in conjunction, that was cool. So things like that, I would love to be able to build on Samus's abilities. So yeah, when I talk about like having her doing, the glory style kills, she did that in Other M. It's already there. You've seen how cool she looked doing it. And nobody who played Other M saw that and was like, that's whack. No, they had a lot of things in the game that they felt was whack. But Samus's actual badassness, that's great. Hell, when she's a badass in Dread, a lot of us Metroid fans, we think, oh yeah, that's all the cool stuff that, Sakamoto did in Other M, still prominent here. Then he threw a lot of texture of Metroid Prime over it. And it's like, yeah, he found the perfect balance of it all. And while Other M was very yappy, I'm trying to find the balance even in that, where it's like, there's these little moments, these little intimate moments where there's conversations around you and with you, you know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, it just adds texture to the game. It adds a little bit of narrative, And then some people are like, oh yeah, but what if I want to skip that room? Look, there's a lot of stuff in Metroid that you could skip. There's full abilities that you could skip in all the Metroid games. So there could be sections where it might be like, oh yeah, you missed that section with the scientists where you sit down and they, gave you a heads up. You just went down there not knowing and you figured it out without the hints from that room. Breath of the Wild does that. Where it's like, yeah, you could go do all this other stuff and then you finally do go see Impa and then she's like, oh, yeah, well, you already know her last, so I'm not even going to bother saying that. I'm just going to say, good job, Link. Like, and you can basically do that. So it's something along those lines. And you see I always make these comparisons to Zelda. It's because Metroid always felt, to be 100% honest, was like somebody sat there at Nintendo and was like, Mario's winning, Zelda's winning. I'm going to put both of them together. That game named Zelda, but you don't play as Zelda, so I'm going to name this game after this thing you don't play at, but you're going to play as a woman. That's going to freak them out because they're going to think they the dude. You know what I mean? And you're going to be able to platform, jump around, and all that, just like this guy. But you're not only going to be able to go to the right, you're going to be able to go up, down, everywhere. And it was like and what did you do in Zelda at the time? You went up, down, everywhere. It was like they just married the two. And that's why I always say, if there was being Metroid games pumped out all the time, it would probably be number one, you know what I'm saying? As in my actual favorite, Nintendo series. It would be number one because it's the best of both worlds. It's always kind of felt like that. And then you throw the sci-fi narrative on top of that, which is what I love, the not only the narrative, but the actual, the themes and everything, the whole feel, the whole IP. Yeah, I love that, and I love fantasy and all of that. And I love what Mario is, the trip that is, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, Metroid would be up there. So for me, it's like, yeah, man. To me, it's just a no-brainer, to compare these things. So when I'm comparing these things, I look at Link and I look at Mario, and they have these abilities that they always build on in every single game. It's like, oh yeah, Mario could jump. Oh, Mario could triple jump. Now Mario could throw his hat and jump on his hat, and then jump off that, and then you see what I'm saying? Like they just kept building on it. And then Link, it was like, yeah, Link, the world is kind of open, but no, now it's really open. That's why when a lot of Metroid fans also say, oh yeah, I don't want open world Metroid. I'm like, to me, Metroid always were the original open world games. Zelda, Metroid, RPGs in general, like these are open world adventure games. You just have to access the world. And then when you get through everywhere, you're always able to come back and walk through everywhere like a boss, super powerful. So that's what made those games, in my mind, this is before, of course, GTAs and things like that. I'm like, these are the original open world games. So in the same way Breath of the Wild had his moment, it's almost, I won't say it's inevitable, because you need success to be able to use that word, a lot of it. But I think if the series keeps going for years and years to come, yeah, it's inevitable that Samus is going to land at an open world entry, where it's going to be like, yeah, you choose to go about it how you want, where you want to go, what you want to complete first. It doesn't matter what order you complete it, because the main gate, the last place, only opens after you complete all of those things. You know what I mean? So it could be something like that. No, it's no different from the Great Plateau. It's like, just break it down more into a Metroid game and say all 4 of the shrines on the Great Plateau that get you off of the Great Plateau would be, the 4 areas of a Metroid game. And then you finally complete those in the order you want. Now everybody lands at that place at the end, So after every player chooses to go about the 4 different directions the way they want to go about it, they access that final area. So we're all landing at the same place at the same time. But then it makes you think in the sense of an open world. And by the way, if I haven't stated it yet, yes, open world is my number 6. How do you do open world when usually you need this ice beam in order to access this area and that? What do you do? Well, this what makes me go back to the beginning of the game, right? We start at Zero Suit in her room. She makes her way up to her ship. You got to consider, if the space pirates is coming in, they bombing on her ship, right? So then her ship might be slightly injured. You could say, oh, her suit took damage there, and that's why she doesn't have the abilities that she would normally have in her suit. Ice beam, this, that, because you would assume she would have all those things. This is her home planet, basically. This is her home base. Her suit should be fully functioning here, right? So that's the way you would nerf the suit. But what if you didn't nerf the suit, right? And you kept her with her missiles, right? So that you can open red doors right from the start. There'll be other doors and other beams that you can unlock in order to get to other places. I'm just saying, you give her the mainline things. You Breath of the Wild it. Remember Sheikah Slate, you had a set group of things. You didn't have to go and collect bombs, and they just gave you certain things in order to make the traverse around the world, work the way it worked. And I think that's what you would have to do kind of with Samus. So if you don't make it where, oh, they bombed on her ship, like, no, her ship actually, wasn't injured like that, and her suit wasn't destroyed or anything like that and nerfed. She just gets out of that, ship after arriving at it and sending it to, help out all the other things that's protecting this planet that you would assume is going on around, as all of this is happening, all the mayhem. All right. She sends it off to fly, like I said. She has all these abilities, so now you can pick and choose. Oh yeah, I can access all these areas to an extent. You know what I mean? And now I gotta get abilities for these specific areas. But then you'll say, oh yeah, but then those abilities would just be for those areas and not the other areas. I would say they won't be for you to access other areas, but I would make abilities take out enemies in different fashions, so that depending on how you went about it, oh yeah, I had this beam that worked on. Give every in this sense, every 4 area that you can choose to go to, let's give it a number, right? There's a beam at 1 that takes out enemies at 4 a lot easier than if you went to 2 and then went to 4. You didn't get the beam from 1. So those enemies is going to be a lot more hits in order to take them out and things like that. You can do things like that where it's like, yeah, they still have purpose, if not, but not the exact purpose. Like, there's things that the idea is still there of you finding the thing in order to access the world more, and then that weapon still has purpose later. And then when you get to you complete all 4 areas, right? It don't matter how you went about it. Oh yeah, I went to this area and I could have been stronger, and you could play it again, run through it again, and do it in a different order. But here's the best part about the last area being where everybody lands after the openness of it all. This being the castle, right? When you go there, fully powered, the last battle, let's say, yeah, the last battle is your, Meta really battle in the sense of what I was saying, right? He has all these different abilities because they use parts and science from every creature, every area, everything that happened in every area. They use some of that to create this meta really. So now when he's switching up and doing this and doing that, you know what beam to use and whatever. Just like your Metroid Prime battle, at the end of Metroid Prime when you would switch from yellow to red, you know what I mean, like to purple to. It's the same. It's that same idea. You know what I mean? And so everything is still there. All the Metroid elements are still there, but they just played with in a different way. And that worked wonders. That worked wonders for Zelda. Zelda went from being a game that selling was 7 million for single entry, not padding it out where, oh yeah, this had a port, that one had released on multiple platforms. No. Single entry Ocarina of Time was 7 million on the 64. And they never saw that number for years without padding things out like, oh yeah, here comes Twilight Princess, and that did better than Ocarina of Time because it was on the GameCube and it was on the Wii, and it wouldn't be up. Look, we got a lot of stuff since Ocarina of Time, Wind Wakers and Skyward Sword, other things that didn't reach that ceiling of 7 million. But then Breath of the Wild came, and then the series all of a sudden now is a 30 million seller. Tears of the Kingdom comes out, 20 something million already sold. Like, it's crazy, and that can easily be the same thing for Metroid. Just those slight changes could change everything for because again, we saw it work before, and it happened again with Mario. When Mario actually, look, in 2013, what I said I wanted not to see loading screens after every star. I want to go into a world and I want to be able to collect everything I want. And there should be areas that aren't accessible until I go to the other worlds and I could come back to this one. Remember the paintings? Certain moons you couldn't collect? All of that still happened in Odyssey, and they did that. You didn't have to load for every moon. And people complained about, oh my God, just moons everywhere. And I was like, this is what I wanted. This was my dream. So yeah, they went open and that worked. And then Mario went from selling being, 10 million sold for a 3D game to, again, we sitting in the 20, 30 million ranges, and it's incredible. So there's nothing to say that Metroid can't go with making these changes from the 3 million, the under 4 million it did with Dread to being a 10 million seller. I'm not saying you got to go all the way up to Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Odyssey and things like that, but it could be a 10 million seller. Hell, it could be a 7 million seller, 8 million seller. We saw Kirby reach his highest potential when Kirby went, from 2D to 3D, and that game kept all of the elements, you know what I mean? And I know somebody say, yeah, but isn't that what Prime was to the 2D games? I'm like, yeah. But now I'm saying the 2D games to evolve into something specifically. Because, look, you could say there's the top-down Zelda, which is the classic Zelda. Then you can say there's 3D Zelda, which is everything from Ocarina of Time up to Skyward Sword. And then you can say there's open air Zelda, right? So in the case of Metroid, you would go, there's 2D Metroid, there's Metroid Prime, and now there's this new 2.5D Metroid thing. That's very much 2D Metroid still. It's clearly the evolution of that. In the same way that Breath of the Wild is truly an evolution of everything Zelda, and it is. It's NES Zelda. It's the wonder and the surprise of that game, like of being able to go wherever you wanted to go, any direction. But it's still the evolution of Ocarina and all that stuff more than anything else. It built on that and just opened it up. So it's like taking 2D and building on that and open it up. That's basically what my Metroid 6 would be. So yeah, I think upgrading your arsenal, that being number 5, like, and the way to build on Samus to making her something new. So she starts with a lot of the old stuff. And so now her arsenal, my number 5, the upgrading of it makes sense, right? It's meaningful upgrades to this old character, building on the things that before made you feel like super, Super Metroid, like made you feel super. Like those things now, that's your normal. And now we're going to build on that with all these other things. So yeah, whatever that means. Like, look, usually your screw attack was like upgraded from being able to just, now you could just jump really cool, like the screw attack, but you don't got the ability to actually, you had the screw, but no attack. and then you upgrade it where you get the attack and you breaking through everything. So it's like, yeah, it's that. The same way they did that before, you do that and you just build and build and add, the next thing to it. What's that next thing? Who knows? In Prime 3, they thought, hey, look, maybe adding some electricity to the mothball could do something. And they used it in puzzles and turning things on and stuff like that. But it's things like that. And, you just have to come up with really creative, cool things that work in the 2D, 2.5D space that this game will be living in. And again, this isn't Beautiful Joe. For those of you who don't know Beautiful Joe, it's from the creator of Bayonetta and a lot of classic games, but that's like the most recent one, Wonderful 101. But yeah, you like had like you just like the camera turned, like you would like literally turn corners. So think of like playing a Mario game, but then just the world just kind of just turns a little bit, and that's what it did. So you were still in the 2D space, but it was like you was just turning into the world. It felt like there could be sections like that, It don't have to be sharp turns like I described earlier, where it's like, oh yeah, when you go up the stairs into an elevator and Dread, like yeah, there could be hard turns into that direction, into that room, of course, because a lot of these places are corridor filled. But when you're in these outdoors areas and things like that, yeah, you can do the Beautiful Joe style, just turning into this area. But in those areas, you can still have, and Beautiful Joe did it too. They had full boss fights and everything, but platforming, you could go up, you could go down, you can still choose where to go, even when you're in those slightly curved camera angle sections. Like there's still stuff there. It's game, you know what I mean? It's gameplay. And Beautiful Joe is a good indicator of what that was like, because there's really not a lot of other games that I can describe that's like that. And it's a shame because that game is over 20 years old too. You know what I mean? Like old. But yeah, man, these are my ideas. These are my thoughts for a potential Metroid 6. There's not a potential that it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. Just, my ideas potentially being, applied to something like that. Look, all of these will never be, I feel, in a Metroid game, because they always play it mostly in a safe space, it feels like, with Metroid. But damn, if they did, it'll be great. It'll absolutely be great. And look, I want to know what you really think. I know there'll be some stuff where y'all disagree with. Y'all be like, no talking, no space pirate. This planet, it should be just listen, how many planets have we already ran through where Samus just runs through and obliterates everything? I'm trying to give it more of a texture. Like imagine going into a room and it's like just a hidden room, and yeah, there's an energy tank at the end of the room, but when you walk in, there's a bunch of alien species that Samus knows, and she stops, gets down on one knee and pet it. You look at something like Replace. There's a lot of previews going around for Replace right now. You look at a preview of that, and the way that that character is dynamically interacting with the world and having like Arkham battles within the actual 2D gameplay. And I just think of Samus just walking into a room and just like, oh, yo, getting down on a knee and just petting a creature and be like, yeah. And it's like, stay here. It's safe. Like, again, creature just hiding out. And she don't need to say it. It's just the emotion given. But if she does say it, it can be things that she's saying, again, alien speech or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I still want her to talk English sometimes. Why? Because it just would be cool to me as a fan. I had this whole conversation, you know what I'm saying, recently on Discord with the community there, like talking about how I am over the silent protagonist. Like I'm truly over it. Like I would have much preferred all the characters in Donkey Kong Bonanza to just speak, not just Pauline, you know what I mean? Because Donkey Kong, I've heard him talk in so many different things. In my mind, he always, talked. So it's like, yeah, he talked even in the movie. So it's like him just being silent. I was like, why? Like Link being a mute during these strong scenes and not being able to say nothing to console Zelda when she's crying in his arms. And like, I don't know, like I just wish that it was there. I get the, oh yeah, but you're Link. Cool, yeah, I would say something. I wouldn't be a mute. So that argument really doesn't hold any weight. And then Samus is like, why is this being applied to her too? Oh yeah, she can't say nothing. Da, da, da. Like, Jesus. So it's just all of the Nintendo games got to be this. And this is something that Nintendo fans take because of a company's, decision to just be cheap. That's really what it is. You got indie games out here, fully voiced, 2D games, and really well voiced. And yeah, you got to pay actors and you got to do things. But Nintendo's a multi-billion dollar company, and people always making excuses why this company can't do something. I hate that. Before the Switch 2 came out, it can't be 4K. They can't do 120 frames. They can't. That's all I was hearing. I was like, no, they could do this. They could do that. They could do this. And then when they end up doing it, voice chat, whatever the case may be, It's like, yay, cool. And it's like, but y'all just sat there saying they can't, they can't, they can't. And I know that the reality is that if they did it and they did it great in the next Zelda game, Link actually speaks, has actual conversation. If they did it, in the next 3D Mario game and gave it that animated feel. And I'm not saying bombard it and make it. The thing with Sonic is Sonic, a lot of the time the acting is mediocre, and the stories aren't that great. But if they gave it something decent enough, like if Mario Galaxy was fully voiced when Rosalie is telling the story and all that, it would have never did nothing but make that 10 out of 10 just a 10.1. Like, you know what I mean? Like, damn, it's only 1 point extra. Fine, it's an 11 out of 10. But nah, it just would have added to it if it was done well. Like, it's fine. Hearing Peach talking Mario 64 and then having talking and it wasn't great in Sunshine, I just always felt like, yeah, this is like gameplay. Eventually they're going to get better at it and it's going to get better and we're going to be in a better space. Even with other M, that was my main takeaway. It was like, okay, you attempted it. I didn't think never have Samus speak again because y'all did this one bad day. Y'all made a bad story game. Like, that was something y'all did. That can be remedied easily too. And the idea of, yeah, no, just don't do it. Just don't attempt. Don't do it. Like, oh no, the rules from, like, this ain't Super Nintendo era. It's not the 90s. I don't care for nostalgia when it comes to maintaining nonsense that is just, again, it's a cop-out in 2025. When you play things that are like full feature to the point where they do get full features announced for them, like It Takes Two, Split Fiction. Games like The Witcher or whatever the case, games that people play and say, oh, that should be a movie or whatever. It's like, it's good. Hell, even look, playing through Gears of War 1, Reloaded again, right? And hearing them talk nonsense, I'm like, it's so good. It's so good. I've heard it 1,000 times. I'm like, it's so good. Because it just is. It's just funny. There's a lot of good stuff in there. When you finally save Coltrane and everything, like, yo, this guy's crazy. He's down there by himself. Like, all of that just adds texture to it. Now imagine Samus, taking out, you take out a bunch of enemies. You're there by yourself. It's intimate. Nothing's happening. Remember, this is you got this whole 2.5D dynamic. Remember what I said about being able to see into another room or whatever like that? And there's a glass window in the background. And when you take everything out in that room, right, you just see like scientists come up on, and again, this is in 2D in gameplay. It's not stopping you from playing. You could just walk away and miss it. If you walk away, you won't even hear it. But them just come up on the glass and be like, whoa, it's Samus. She saved us. Or it's basic. It just gives the world a feeling of like, yeah, you're going through this and you're saving the planet. This planet needs to be saved. That's why I say you're not going to destroy the whole planet. You're going to have a battle at the core of the planet, and then Samus is going to actually contain the destruction to that area. There'll be an escape sequence. You'll get out of there. When you get out of there, you'll make your way up to the surface. Obviously, you'll still be going through the world. There's still the enemies that you've been seeing, but now you're far more OP going through it. As you're making your way up to the surface, you can stop, choose to explore, and collect all the things that you missed, access places that you couldn't access previously. And when you get up to the surface, that's where the final battle will take place. Your ship hopefully will be upgraded more. It can help you do more stuff. But you're trying to save this place. Even though y'all really not going to stay here and do what y'all was doing here because it's been, snitched on and stuff like that. And even down to having the scientist is important because you want to find the one who's like, yeah, I'm the one who caused all of this. I was promised this and I'll be able to do my work. Almost like that Baxter Stockman style, far gone scientist is like, no, there's always these rules in the Federation. They don't want to see this through and so, the pirates, they would allow me. And he's like, yeah, he was even there. You see him at the top helping, the completion of like Ridley, being powered up and like bam, and it's like that's where the fight happens. So all of that is part of it. And when she obliterates everything, and I said, oh yeah, there's pirates on the mountains and everything looking down onto this battle, all epic. Everything gets obliterated there, including that scientist. Yeah, and that's the way it ends. You know what I mean? Mission complete. That's it. We contained everything to this, and that'll be my Metroid 6. The end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you did, remember, you can always hit the link in the description. Go to the Patreon, become a member and all that. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And yeah, I'll see y'all on the next one. Until then, peace.